What's up, y'all? It's your boy G. Allen with All the Talk Podcast. Today's going to be a fun day. I got 4 special guests with me, and I'm going to tell you those names right now. So I got Jackson Passowitz. Say what's up, Jackson.
What's up?
James Ivester. He actually just made that fire beat that you listened to for the intro. Check him out on SoundCloud. Jay No Space Bumpin'. He's not no SoundCloud rapper. He's a SoundCloud beatster.
What's up, boys?
Say what's up, James.
What's up?
Spencer Whipple. Shut up, Spencer.
Hey.
And lastly, we got Jack Phillips.
What's up?
Today's going to be a really fun show, as you can tell by the male dominance in our podcast. We hate women.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, all in favor of repealing women's rights, say aye.
Aye.
Definitely.
I'm just kidding, man. Women, there's some really good women out there, especially the ones that make good sandwiches. Just kidding. I'm kidding. It's fine.
No, but
I
they
completely
do
agree.
make some pretty fire
I mean,
sandwiches.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's some really good women out there that have some really good opinions and thoughts. Especially y'all that are listening to the show right now. Thank you so much. Y'all women are great. And thank you for listening to my thoughts and opinions. And so before we get started, since we're all straight white males, I say we all check our white privilege. We can't find it anywhere. I'm sorry. But anyway, we got a fun day ahead of us. We're going to be covering guns, gender identity, and government control, and some NFL mixed in there too. So let's get started. To start off the show, we're going to be talking about the NFL. And sitting right next to me is our NFL insider, Jackson Passowitz. So Jackson, I got to ask you a couple questions today. First one being, Packers firing Mike McCarthy, actually.
Yeah.
Was it a good or bad fire?
Well, you know, Mike McCarthy's been there for quite a long time. I mean, he's been able to win some games with the help of Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, you know, kind of keeping the boat up. But, you know, he's more of an old-style coach. I don't think he's getting it done in this type of era with explosive offenses such as, you know, the Chiefs and the Rams. You got Sean McVay and Andy Reid, 2 offensive masterminds. So, you know, I think the Packers are really just looking to move forward. And, you know, the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy wasn't really just working out. It was, some would describe it as kind of a toxic relationship at times. So, you know, they would rather have their star quarterback in a good place with a good coach that he likes than someone who's just been there. Although he did take them to the Super Bowl, I think he deserved to be able to finish out the season, even though it was heading directly into the ground. But you know, so there's some front runners for candidates such as the Patriots offensive coordinator. I can't remember his name right now. He's looking pretty good for the job. You know, they might call up Coach Kelly. He has no future career at Pulaski Academy. But yeah, they're just looking for someone young, someone fresh, someone to energize the back end of Aaron Rodgers' career, kind of like Mike McCarthy did when Brett Favre first stepped onto the scene.
Yeah, I definitely got to agree with you there, Jackson. With Mike McCarthy's resume and the whole Packers kind of franchise, I think they should be able to finish out the season as head coach. And so next, we're going to do some hot takes, a couple questions. So who's the best player in the game right now, and who's the best team right now? So starting off with Jack, what are your answers to both of those?
I'd say the best player in the NFL right now is probably Patrick Mahomes. He just seems like he's like the biggest up-and-coming star. He's such a complete quarterback. He can throw the ball like crazy and also run the ball. Best team in the NFL, even though they just lost to the Cowboys, I'd probably still take the Saints. I think they're the most complete team. Obviously, the Rams and the Chiefs probably have the most complete offenses. They're so overpowered, but I just think their defense is a liability. I think Saints are the overall best team in the NFL.
Yeah, I definitely got to agree with you. Best player in the league right now is definitely Patrick Mahomes, although Drew Brees is having a heck of a season. But I got to go with the Chiefs for the best team in the league right now. Mahomes is playing amazing. They're just a complete team. But the loss of Kareem Hunt's a big blow. But, Spencer, what you got?
Well, my pick for the best team in the NFL right now are the New Orleans Saints. And I believe that because Alvin Kamara is just a beast, and you can put him in slot. He'll do some damage there. You put him at wide out, he'll do damage there. And you put him in the backfield, he can do damage there. So all around, just probably the best player in the NFL right now.
All right, best player, definitely going to be Dez Bryant. He's gotten a lot of playing.
Rest in peace.
He's gotten a lot
Was it
of-
his Achilles that he tore?
I don't know. He's gotten
It
a
was
lot.
in
I mean,
practice,
okay, no.
man.
If we're being for
Last
real
night
though,
practice.
he's
Right
got
after he got traded.
guys. He's
That's
gotten
it.
a lot of playing time. He's gotten a lot of good highlights this year, and he's
Throw up the X for that ankle.
Yeah.
I mean,
But best team, I'm definitely going to have to go with the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're coming up. They're rising up. They got a big fan base behind them, and I think that they're going to go all the way this year.
and lastly, who you got, Jackson?
All right, so best best player in the NFL right now. He's been lighting up the league. It's kind of a two-man duo. I got Tyreek Hill. He's having a heck of a season. Probably the best wide receiver in the NFL right now this season. But on the other end of that, you also got Patrick Mahomes, who's throwing those absolute darts, 99 throw on the run. But for the best team and my pick to win the Super Bowl, I'm going to have to go with the Los Angeles Chargers. They've been doing some real damage this year with plenty of injuries. They didn't have Joey Bosa just up until very recently. Melvin Ingram's out. Not Melvin Ingram. Melvin Gordon, that's the one. Melvin Gordon's out. And, we got Hunter
NFL analyst, right.
Hunter Henry, our very own Arkansas boy, has been out since about last year with a terrible torn Achilles. He's supposed to be a very integral part of that offense. But, they've been doing amazing without those key players. And, just think about what they could do with them. Just last week they came back from a 16-point deficit to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, Super Bowl contenders. So I guess we'll just see.
That was some good NFL analysis and some good hot takes, but next we're going to move on to James Iverser and his music review of the week.
All right, so this week we have the highly anticipated album from XXX Tentacion, formerly deceased Florida rapper. And
He's
so
not dead.
What?
He's not dead.
How do you know?
How is he coming out with this music if he's in the grave? Explain to me that.
You're stupid.
Spencer, shut up. You're not talking over
No, I'm going to have to agree. I'm pretty sure he's kicking in Cuba.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, he's kicking in Cuba. Anyway, what's y'all's opinions on X's management team and mom milking out his death for the money?
He's not dead.
Okay, shut up. Okay. So we could see with his merch sales of selling $500 polos to depressed white teenagers that he's obviously milking all the money he can. But the album's really short. It's 10 songs, only 20 minutes. He has a collaborative song with Kanye West of 1 minute of absolute ear rape from him screaming the exact same word. But other than that, Jackson, do you have any favorite songs you'd like to mention off the album?
Well, Bad. It's a pretty good song.
Bad's a banger.
Bad's a banger. But I have to go deeper into what you're saying. I think it's pretty disgusting what they're doing. They went through all the scrounged up music they could find. They just throw it together, put in some features, 10 songs, 20 minutes. How many songs was that Logic album that recently came out?
It was about 14 songs sitting at about an hour 16 minutes.
Hour 16 minutes. So we got 4
songs.
extra songs, but then 80 more minutes of runtime.
Yeah.
So, you tell me what that sounds like. Instead of them coming out with one good project to honor his memory, they're going to come out with probably at least 1 or 2 more albums.
Just short little 10 song,
making at least
20 minutes.
A few million more dollars.
The album is projected to sell over 160,000 copies, which that's just straight money for them right there. But anyway, let me know what y'all's comments are on the album in the description below.
Thank you so much for that insight, James. You did a great job in that. I'm so glad that they're making millions of dollars off a pregnant woman beater. Shots fired. But anyway, we're going to start off the podcast, the meat of our podcast here, talking about guns, gender identity, and government control. So starting off with guns, I'm just going to read to you the Second Amendment, as I did last week. I read the First Amendment when I was talking about freedom of speech. And so the Second Amendment says, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And so I have a very strong opinion on guns and this whole idea of gun control. I believe you should be able to own whatever you want. This whole concept of what it's written in the Constitution, it's not stating that you can have hunting guns. You can have hunting guns, but the whole concept is to defend yourself against tyranny. And when the government comes knocking at your door, they're not going to be coming at you with shotguns. They're going to have, their AR-15s and stuff like that. So I think Americans should be able to own whatever they want to own, and just like, bazookas or something like that. But if you want to own an assault rifle, an automatic or semi-automatic, I believe that you should be able to own that assault rifle. And so this whole idea of gun control that the left is pushing and saying that more gun control equals, less mass shootings, that's not really the case. So according to the Crime Prevention Research Center, 97.8% of mass shootings have occurred in gun-free zones since 1950. So this whole debate about gun control, the right is winning big time, I think, in my opinion, because the left is claiming all these things about gun control, saying we need stronger policies, we need these stricter laws. We need to take away guns, but the gun control and gun-free areas are exactly where the mass shootings are happening. And I think if people defend themselves and have their guns in the areas, they'll be able to defend themselves and less casualties will be happen. And we always see in the media, we see this constant repetition of mass shootings and people getting shot, but we never see the good man with a gun stopping someone, or someone breaking into someone's house and they defend their house with a gun. Because if you come into my house is armed, and I'm either going to point the gun at you and tell you to get off my property, or if you try to hurt me, you're going to get shot. And so there's how to prevent mass shootings. It starts with the family. So if we're mad about these mass shootings and these crazy people getting guns, we need to look at the family from the bottom. And so a Michigan study found that 75% of mass shooters come from broken families. So 75% of these shooters and killers are mostly men, and they're coming from families without dads. And so we need to get down to a societal level and think, what are we doing in our families that is making these people want to kill other people? And so also along with the fact of that, 85% of kids with behavioral disorders, their dads aren't present in the home. And so this whole idea that, women can handle their own kids and stuff like that, I think there's a lot of strong women out there who raise their kids right. Like take Ben Carson, for an example. He didn't have a father in his home, and his mom made him read and study all the time, and he turned out to be one of the best doctors in the entire country. But when you look at it from a basic level, 85% of these kids have behavioral disorders when they don't have their dad. And it's strong family is the basis of a good society and a good country. And we're getting away from that whole concept and saying that, kids can choose their own gender and you don't have to have two parents in the home. You can have two dads in the home and stuff like this. And so if you take a look back, 50, 60 years ago, there were more strong families in the U.S. and less of these mass shootings were occurring. But yeah, if you look at it from the societal level, if we want to break it down and say, what's causing these things, we need to really focus on family structure and maintaining the family and not just splitting apart. And so do y'all have any ideas on what y'all think about gun control or guns or just anything within that realm?
Back on what you were saying earlier about, how your house is armed. I heard a story on the radio about just last week. There was a prison breakout just a few miles down the road from this woman's house. And so a prisoner, he broke down her door and he was threatening to kill her if she didn't help her. And so what she did is she got her gun and she told him to leave, and when he refused to and he came after her, she shot him and killed it. She shot him and she killed him. And you know what would have happened if she didn't have that gun? Well, I'll leave that up to you.
I'm going to have to completely agree with all of G's points. I think he laid it out there clearly, and that's where I stand on this topic.
Yeah, because you have, the whole idea about, the left is pushing this thing that you can have your guns to hunt. Well, that's not what the whole Constitution is saying. The whole Constitution is founded on a tyrannical government trying to take people's rights away. And when the Founding Fathers wrote the Constitution, they weren't thinking of hunting. Well, they were protecting that too. But they were thinking of a government coming in and trying to take away your rights as an individual. And I don't think that should be infringed. It says in the Constitution that it shouldn't be infringed. And yeah, I'm going to be a gun owner when I'm old enough to be a gun owner for myself. I know my dad has guns in the house everywhere, and so when I'm 18 or whatever I'm not sure what the age is to be concealed or open carry, 18, I'm gonna have an open carry because I feel like with how crazy our world has gotten today, that you need to be able to defend yourself against some of these crazy people. So any extra thoughts on this whole idea of gun control and gun violence? So I think Spencer has some thoughts on it.
Well, I think the basis of why the Second Amendment was created was to protect ourselves from the government. So if you look back at Germany, and they basically took control because citizens couldn't own guns and didn't have that a Second Amendment. So that's why it was created, and that's why we can defend ourselves today.
I agree with Spencer. That's the whole reason our country stands out from others, is because we give the power to the people and not the power to the government.
Yeah, and the left kind of pushes this idea. They point to Europe and say, Europe has taken away guns from their citizens and stuff like this whole gun buyback policy and stuff like that. But you look in France, if criminals are going to act in criminal ways, they're going to find different ways to do it. If you look in France, the number of stabbings and the number of people being run over by cars and large crowds of people, the same thing goes along for the United Kingdom and Britain. Stabbings are through the roof, and if you don't have people who are protected by guns or, whatever that might be for someone, the criminals are just going to take advantage of it, and there's going to be a whole black market of guns, and the government is going to have to regulate that too, and it's just going to get out of control. And so as an individual, I think it's perfectly fine to own whatever weapon you choose, because for me, it's different from person to person. Say if you support guns, but you don't have any because you don't feel like the need to have them, you have that right to do so. And for me, I feel like I need guns in my house because there's some crazy people out there. So it's whatever makes you feel more protected, and whatever makes you feel like you can protect your rights. Now that we've covered this whole concept of guns and the right to bear arms, we're going to move on to this whole concept of gender identity, which is our second point in this podcast. So this whole concept of gender identity, where you can basically just choose your own gender, even if it's denying your chromosome makeup. And so looking at the chromosome makeup of male and females, a male has an X and Y chromosome, and a female has a double X chromosome. And that's what sets them apart. So if you have an X and Y chromosome, you're a male. If you have double X chromosomes, you're a female. And there's obvious other reasons that split the two apart. And I know people claim that there's these unisex babies that are born, and that's true, but there's usually a percentage greater, like they're greater male or a greater female. And so that's just going to be grown out of when they hit puberty and stuff like that. And so do y'all have any opinions on this whole topic of you can choose your identity or your gender identity, and it's supported by society saying, I know a couple of years ago, Caitlyn Jenner won like the ESPYs Hero Award, and I think that's a complete joke. We're supporting this. It's a mental illness is exactly what it is, because you're denying reality. And we have other diseases in this country where if you're denying a reality, you get sent to therapy and stuff like that. And so, do you have any ideas about any of this?
Well, I solely base my beliefs on the Bible, and God created human beings in His image, and in His image there's two genders, male and female. I don't think there's anywhere around that. I don't know why people try to make ways around that. I just think there's two genders, male or female.
Amen, brother.
Yeah, there's definitely no Apache attack helicopters.
Or fruit roll-ups.
It's like when people say they just want to. This is what I identify as. If I'm 8 years old and I say, you know what, I'm 16. I can't just go out and register for a driver's license. That's not how it works. And everyone agrees on that. So why can't we agree that, like G was saying, if you have an X and Y chromosome, you are a man. Now sexuality, that's a whole nother topic. But gender, that is what you are.
It's set in stone.
I think if we just keep pushing this narrative of you can choose what gender you are, it's just going to keep going further. And you see that in countries, all around us, where you have this thing where you can choose, who you want to be. Like if you identify as a freaking tiger, you can say I'm a tiger. And I just saw a recent news story where a man was he was 50 or 60 years old, and he's saying that he's going to change his age to 30. And it's this whole denying of reality. And I think this whole thing just gets back to is our faith as a nation and our families as a nation. And we're not promoting a good family life as a nation. And so, Spencer, do you have any thoughts on gender identity?
Well, I think it gets pretty dangerous once you get sort of crazy with it. Like if you're 35 years old and you want to change your age to from 35 to 16, and so now you're legal to have interactions with younger females, and that's just crossing the line.
Yeah, for sure. And there's this whole debate about kids who actually struggle with this, gender identity struggle in their head. And there's research done that says 94% of kids grow out of it by puberty. And so they know what they are, and their parents should push what they are, not let them decide what they want to be. And I know there's tons of cases across America where parents are saying that my boy is a girl and all this stuff, and they're actually getting sued for it. And so I think we covered gender identity pretty well. We can all agree that there's male and female in this world. Jackson, what's your last point?
I have one more thing just to say about that news story. I just heard something recently. There was a woman, and she had this young boy, very young, probably about a toddler, and she was claiming he was a female. He had no input on it, and so the father sued her, saying, you can't just do this. And now the court is siding with her and threatening to take his son away from him for pushing his biblical beliefs. That his son is exactly that, his son. Not his daughter, but his son.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even if you agree with the Bible or not, if you believe in the Bible or not. It's basic biology, and like I said, it's just undeniable basic biology. And so I think we've covered gender identity pretty well. And so now we're just going to move on to this a whole idea of government control and our personal beliefs on what the government should control and what the government shouldn't control. And so we're just going to go around and kind of state our opinions on that. And so my first question for all of y'all is, what should and shouldn't government control?
No healthcare.
Okay, why?
And because the more power you give to the people, the more the government is based on the people. And healthcare is just getting too involved.
I think that's a bit of a stretch. I am one that supports like least government involvement possible, but I think you need some basis of healthcare. Now, what it's getting to, like Obamacare, like heck no. But like I think there needs to be a small basis. But I get your point.
There's a very fine line where it becomes when you deserve it and when you're just lazy, and that's a benefit you're getting from being lazy. Like a single mother who's really just working her tail off, trying to get her and her kids, or whatever her situation is, trying to get herself out of that situation. And if something happens to her, there's no way she can pay for it. She's going to be buried in debt. That's it. There's no coming back from that. But then there are those people who are just lazy. They just don't want to work, and they're getting the free healthcare for it. So I mean, for the lower level people, yes. But, if you can afford it, if you can work for it, then you should just pay for your own healthcare.
Yeah, I would say that healthcare, I probably have a little bit more of a different opinion. Healthcare should be based on this whole idea of capitalism. And capitalism has formed the greatest country ever to exist, basically, this whole idea of capitalism. And healthcare is just, it should be based on the idea of capitalism, that if you can afford it, you can afford it. And if you can't, you should work to afford it, because it all comes down to, if you have like 4 or 5 kids and you're a single mom and you can't afford to pay your bills, why would you have 4 or 5 kids? I don't get why you would put that on yourself if you can't afford it. And that's just making good decisions for your life. And the same way, if you like get in a car wreck or something like that, I know there's like accidents and stuff, but if you blatantly make bad decisions, whether it be drunk driving or something like that, and you wreck, it comes down to individual choices. And I think if we put this government control inside of healthcare, there'll be less innovation. As we see in America, there's so much innovation in the healthcare system, and when the government gets their hands on it, it's just going to stop. Because whenever government gets handled something, innovation stops. I know all of y'all have been to the DMV, even the post office before FedEx and Amazon Prime came out. The post office was horrible since it was controlled by the government, and people say that it's a great example of what a socialism society would look like, but it was horrible before capitalistic free market companies like FedEx and Amazon came out with their basically next day shipping, and so the post office said we have to step it up. And the same thing's true with healthcare. You have really good hospitals with innovative technology that can do amazing things for people. And I think if you put a cap on the government saying that they're going to give out healthcare, you're saying that you're forcing these doctors who have spent like hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to school and become a doctor. They're forcing them to treat people, and they don't have the right to force people to do what they want to do and what they don't want to do. And so the next question I have is, what do y'all think is theft versus taxes? Like, what tax is stepping the line on individual freedom?
Right now, adding up all the taxes, the state tax, the federal tax, income tax, Social Security, all that comes about, for a middle class person, around to about 40% of what you're making. So, you're making all, like, they're just taking too much. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, and I think this whole idea of this socialistic movement, when you look at the total amount of taxes that you'd have to pay for everyone to have free healthcare, everyone to have free college, you're taking 80% of basically your money. And I don't think the government should take I get like building roads and funding the military for sure, because the military is what keeps us safe. And that's pretty much the whole entire role of the government, is to keep its people safe and protect their rights. And so, yeah, that's what I'd say for taxes. I think that some taxes definitely need to be repealed for stuff that doesn't even matter, but I definitely don't want the government taking 70-80% of my money, what all these socialistic people are pushing for, like Bernie Sanders. I just don't see why any sane individual would want to give away all their money to something that they won't even use or something that doesn't help them or benefit them when you can spend your money the way you want to spend your money in this country.
What do you think that comes down to? Like, why do you think the government needs all this money? What parts of the government you think don't need this money from us?
I definitely think the government and the welfare state that we have, I definitely don't think that I should be paying for someone who, a lot of these people are definitely capable of going out and getting jobs, and they've made poor choices in their life that have left them on the street. And I get veterans, because veterans deserve the utmost respect. And I know it's hard for a lot of them with PTSD coming back from war and these tragic events in their life that have happened. So I get it with them. I'll definitely gladly support veterans. But the people on the street, I definitely think comes down to societal level. So if we care about those people on the street as Christians and as good people, essentially, that we will take care of them for ourselves. The government doesn't have to take care of them. That's kind of the whole thing of helping your neighbor out. And so you look at Republicans, they give, you look at the stats, they give so much more money to charity than Democrats do, because we want to help people out who are struggling, and we want to help our neighbor out who can't afford to, buy his own car yet. And so that's the whole American dream. It's not the guarantee of success in this country, it's the opportunity to succeed in this country. And if you're living with like 5 brothers and sisters in your home, and you have to share a bathroom, and you're all sleeping in one room, you have the opportunity to work your butt off and become a millionaire in this country. And that's the great thing about the American dream.
Back to kind of what James was asking you about, like where this money should be going, where it is going. We have a huge chunk of it going to welfare to, help out these poor people. And only 2% of America's national yearly budget goes to education. Think about it. If we had a much higher percentage of that money going into education, we're building good schools, employing good teachers, paying teachers enough that they actually want to work. I know most teachers do, but there's some teachers like Baptist Prep, one of their teachers got fired for sleeping in class. But
Yeah.
We wouldn't have all these uneducated people who who screw up their life because they're not in a good home, they can't get out of it because our education system sucks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, education is what frees poverty. And, if you want to get out of poverty, get educated. And so that's
education is the main opportunity that you get when you're growing up.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And we should definitely take advantage of that. Thank y'all so much for listening. This was a great podcast. I hope y'all loved it. Hope y'all are still listening, by the way. I know it was kind of long today. But thank you so much for viewing. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. That was a good movement, Jackson. Like and subscribe. Comment below if you disagree, you agreed, or you hate me. You can dislike it, whatever you think. Yeah. So I'm G. Allen with All the Talk Podcast, signing off. Peace.